Welcome to the What the Fuck Is That podcast, where we ask the age-old question of what the fuck is that? I'm your host, Jess.
I'm Jen.
And I don't know if it's the fires in LA or what, but all of this right now is starting to drive me crazy.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but I am all stuffed up, and it's not because of mucus. It's because there's inflammation in there.
Yeah, my throat just feels extra scratchy and everything's just a little bit itchier. I'm like, well, that's gonna happen in the next couple of days or it's gonna be real bad.
Yep.
I just realized I have 2 drinks in front of me that are my 2 favorite drinks. Can you guess what I have in front of me?
Dr. Pepper and Cosmopolitan.
No, I don't drink Cosmopolitans.
Oh. What is it that you like? Why did I think Cosmopolitan?
Martini?
There we go. I don't know why I got Cosmopolitan in my head.
Those are such different drinks.
I know they are, but I don't know. For some reason, my head went Cosmopolitan because it can be served in the same martini-looking glass.
Yeah, but if you gave a freshly 21-year-old college white girl a espresso martini instead of a Cosmopolitan, she wouldn't know what to do with herself.
Right, but I was thinking of the glass. I knew exactly what I was picturing. But for some reason, I was thinking of the Cosmopolitan, but in the martini glass.
I like that even your first thought wasn't, it's a martini glass, so clearly it's a martini.
Yeah, but my brain just could not get the word martini out.
You went Cosmopolitan? I'm like,
as soon as I said it.
I do enjoy a Cosmopolitan, but that's not what I drink.
As soon as I said it, I was like, nope, that's wrong.
That was my first starting to drink fancy girl drinks was a Cosmopolitan.
I think mine was a Moscow Mule.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which both are essentially just 3 items.
Yeah. However, now every time I go to the bar, I just order a Bacardi and Coke. That's my legit go-to every single time.
Makes it easier. I think I'm getting old because I appreciate way more of a craft cocktail. Going to a place and they have a whole menu of cocktails specific to that place. Oh, it makes my little heart happy.
Dude, I paid money. I paid $50 for this thing. I went to a bourbon social.
Oh.
How more grown up could bourbon. You be? Oh, no, I love it.
Oh, you do? Oh, good.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know. I didn't used to, which you know.
Yeah, that's why I was like, why the fuck did you go to that?
I don't know. Well, okay, so every 7 years, your taste buds mature. They grow, right? And so, really the first time I tried, just straight bourbon or whiskey, I was 21 years old. I'm now 28.
Yeah, worth a try again.
Yeah, and so, I didn't used to like wine until, 25? When I moved out here with you and I started drinking it more?
When I started forcing you to go to wine tastings with me, whether you fucking wanted to or not.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I actually paid money to go to this, and it was wonderful. But I was just like, how much of a grown-up thing could this be?
That is pretty cool.
I was probably the youngest there.
Oh, so speaking of which, there is a whiskey tasting room a couple towns south. And we should go to it. For me.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I'll text you where it is. But yes, there's one.
There's a whiskey library in San Antonio.
What?
Yeah.
What the fuck does that even mean?
It's basically a bookstore with a whiskey bar.
So they just hold on. Hold on.
Yeah.
So they just have a shit ton of different kinds of whiskeys and you can just go and taste any of them?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it just recently opened.
This opens the realm of possibilities because regular tasting rooms. Think about it, because other tasting rooms you go and you just taste what that one producer makes.
Right.
A library of them? Oh, thank you. Yes, please.
Well, when I go home, I'm gonna check it out and I'll let you know.
Yes. That sounds amazing. I love that
Yeah.
idea. 10 out of 10.
Absolutely.
Now I don't know what I want to drink.
Was that you playing Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo with your drinks?
Just a quick little like assessment of my brain and mouth situation.
Yeah. I saw your hand going back and forth, and I was like, what the fuck is she doing?
I couldn't decide. I didn't know how my mouth felt. So if you like whatever the fuck this is, be sure to head over to our Instagram. Our Instagram is WTF is that pod. Over there you'll find the links to all of our pretty link trees. That takes you to our TikTok, to our website, to our Facebook, to all of the places to listen to us. And just, hey, while you're over there, go ahead and give us a like and a review and a follow, because this lets the algorithm gods know that you love us and you think other people would too. And remember, the very best way to help the podcast grow is just by word of mouth. So if you just happen to be out at a future tasting and you start chatting it up with the people next to you, and let's be 100% real, people at tasting rooms like weird shit. So you start talking to them and you're like, I have this podcast that I think you'll like. And they'll be like, no way, let's hear about it. And then you listen to an episode together right there. And it's just like a cute little bonding moment, but whatever. And you made a new friend and potential lover, and we got a new listener. And with that, let's get into this week's episode. Hey, Jen.
Hey, Jess.
Have you ever heard of the Villisca Axe Murders?
What the fuck is the Villisca Axe Murders?
Thanks so much for asking. I'd love to tell you. So
I actually remember a little bit, but not a lot.
Okay, because, spoiler alert, we recorded this before, but I had a bullshit laptop that was not working. And so here is the new laptop recording.
Woohoo. We gotta love faulty technology.
It's like we've never done this before. Okay, so to set the scene, Villisca is an Iowa town that was created in 1858. It was a small little settlement with 2 stores and just a few houses. In that year, the town was selected for a coveted spot on the Chicago-Burlington-Quincy railroad lines. The town was put up for it by one of the railroad's employees, D.N. Smith, who named the town Villisca, believing it was from the Sac and Fox Native American tribes for a pretty place or lovely view. But he might have been a dumbass, because historians now think that he mistook a different local native word for Willisca, which means evil place. So, big different vibe.
Oh, yeah. You got me at the believing part. I was like, what do you mean believing? And then you explained. And so, I mean, either way.
It's like how Eskimos, they're not Eskimos.
Yeah.
That was just the word made up because white people didn't know what they were saying.
Yeah, basically.
I feel like that happened all the fucking time, way too often, where they're like, did you mean this? And the natives went, no, and they're like, well, this is what we're gonna go with. So then we hit Civil War times, and that clearly fucked shit up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Clearly.
it delayed the building of the railroad, and it was finally finished in 1867. And then from there, the town flourished like every railroad town tends to do, because it's right fucking there. So then in the boom that followed the railroad opening, the house at 508 East 2nd Street was built in 1968. So this home was only 600 square feet, but had 2 bedrooms, a parlor, a downstairs sewing room, a kitchen, and an outhouse. And then later on had a barn built next to it.
See, I'm still hearing you say 1968. I don't know why.
1868. It is
I know, but I swear I keep hearing 19. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But that's an interesting house. Okay, we got it.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of things for only being 600 square feet.
Yeah.
Because then it's also 2 stories. So, like,
So
the
it's
bedrooms are on
narrow,
top.
tall.
Yeah, so the bedrooms are on top. And then the parlor, the sewing room, and the kitchen are all downstairs.
Okay.
The layout of this house is important later, I promise.
Okay.
Then in 1903, in 1903, the home was purchased by Josiah B. J.B. Moore. And this is going to be one of the main people in this case.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, he dies.
Oh.
So Josiah was a prominent businessman in the area. At the time of the murders, he had secured a franchise for John Deere, which was a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Most of his family, his parents, and 6 of his 8 siblings all lived in Villisca. So people knew who this family was.
Okay. Very prominent family.
On December 6, 1899, he married Sarah Montgomery at her parents' home. Then by 1912, they had 4 children. Herman, who was 11, Catherine, who was 10, Arthur, who was 7, and Paul, who was 5.
Okay.
So just 1 daughter and 3 boys.
Wow.
So now we're at Sunday, June 9th. There was a special children's program at the church where 2 of Catherine's friends happened to be performing. The friends were Ina Mae Stillinger, who was 8, and her older sister, Lena Gertrude Stillinger, who was 12.
Okay.
So just painting the scene, like, it's a chill day. You and your parents go to church, and then you stay after to see this program of some kids. Like, it's a cute, chill day.
Yeah. Normal. Is that what is it? A Sunday for them or what?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Sunday, yeah. Yep, Sunday, June 9th.
Yeah. So pretty normal Sunday for them.
Yeah, just a chill day. Around 6 p.m., Josiah called the Stillinger family home and asked their older sister Blanche if the girls could stay overnight. And Blanche was like, my parents aren't here right now. Like, my dad's out in the farm and my mom is out in town, but I'm sure it's fine. Like, no big deal, whatever. I'll have my parents call in the morning on when to pick them up, you know? Just like older sister, like family, like, again, family, friends. The family is well known. Her family is also well known. So they're safe. It's fine. Whatever. Around 9:30, the Moore family arrived home. They put a twin bed in the sewing room for the girls, and all of the other Moore children shared one room upstairs while their parents were in the next room.
Okay.
So, again, the setup is 2 bedrooms upstairs. So you have parents and then all the Moore kids. Downstairs, the girls are on a twin-size bed just in the sewing room by themselves.
Could you imagine sharing a room with 3 brothers?
Oh, absolutely not. That sounds like my own personal hell.
Yeah.
I mean, but at that point, like, they also...
Yeah, my mom did it.
I was going to say, but also at that point, they also had a farm. So I figure rooms weren't like they are now, where it's just like fun lounging spots. It was literally just a place they went to sleep and then go do like farm chores the next day, you know?
That's fair.
I think it'd be different as opposed to like now, where it's just another lounging space.
Yeah, that's true.
So now it's sometime after midnight. Someone wielding an axe attacks JB first, Sarah next because they were right next to each other. And then, like the rest of the victims, she was bludgeoned with the blunt end of the axe.
That's absolutely horrible, but I would like to also catch you on your little your little drawl.
It's a hard word.
Hey, it's not many times that I catch you in the southern drawl.
Yeah, whatever.
But that's horrible. Going back to the story, so the parents were killed first.
Yeah, so they took out JB first because clearly you take out the strongest person in the house.
Yeah.
And then the person next to him.
Yeah.
So the killer then went on to the Moore children who were, again, next door before going downstairs to the Stillinger sisters. Then the killer went back upstairs and continued to beat the corpses to the point that their faces were indistinguishable.
Dear Lord, overkill much?
And then the swings were so aggressive that there are axe marks on the wall and ceiling from the back swing because he's hitting him with the blunt end. So he's literally pulling it back so far that he's like hitting the ceiling with his axe and it's chipping it as the beating is occurring.
Dear Lord, this has to be so much rage, but who could have that much rage against this entire family and 2 innocent children?
Yeah, but I also want you to keep in mind, he started upstairs, went downstairs, and now is back upstairs.
Yeah, that confused me. Because wouldn't you go, you're good. Wouldn't you go for like the easy ones downstairs first and then go upstairs and do it in that order and, you know, just do the bludgeoning as you're already up there instead of going down or up, down, back up?
Yeah, and I mean, we'll talk about, as we get into the case a little bit more, different things that they thought had happened, but it is weird that he didn't start downstairs and that it doesn't seem like any of the bodies heard what was going on and went to make a move to save the other people.
Yeah. That's also weird that, like, how would you not hear that?
There's a lot of weird things in this case because, again, spoiler alert, it's not solved. They never figured out who did this. They have a lot of ideas, but never for sure. But all the things are so weird in it. There's so many spots where you're like, wait, hold on a second. Because we're about to get into another one right now.
Oh, goodness.
And that is,
okay.
Yeah, it just gets weirder. But the killer walked around the home and ritualistically covered up every mirror and covered up the victims with pieces of cloth or clothing. It's weird because
so
this
then,
was...
So then remorse after.
Well, so this was also a common practice of wakes and funerals at the time, which comes back.
Okay.
The killer then closed all the window blinds, and the 2 windows that didn't have like drapes or blinds, he draped pieces of the family's clothing over them. So every window is covered and every mirror is covered.
That's weird.
Now the killer did all that. He then returned downstairs where he left the axe in the girls' room. And they believe he took this axe from the Moore's coal shed. Like, didn't even bring it with him. Was one that was already there. But then he left the axe there and leaned it up in the room with the girls.
What?
He just left the axe there, just leaned up against the wall where he killed the girls, and just left it there.
And just left?
Yep.
Huh.
He then washed his hands in the pail of water, made himself a plate of beans and bread, and then left, locking the door with a house key around 5 a.m.
How did he get a house key?
Yeah, that's a great question. Also, how fucking weird is it when killers go into your home, kill you, and then eat your food?
Yeah, that's also very concerning.
Yeah, just the chillness of, no, this is fine. It's like, is it though?
Is it?
So now it's the next day. The Moore's neighbor, Mary Peckham, happened to be outside hanging her laundry. At 6, she thought it was a little strange that the house was so quiet, considering it was a Monday, and the kids should be getting ready for school. And, like, 3 out of those 4 kids are boys. It's gonna be rowdy getting them up and going for school. It's gonna be loud.
Yeah.
So it's weird that it was dead silent.
That is odd.
At 7, Mary noticed that none of the animals had been cared for, so she went over and tried to knock on the doors and, like, tried to get in, but then found out all the doors were locked. So she called JB's brothers home and spoke to his wife to see if something was up, like maybe they're sick, out of town, like, who knows. And then she also called the store that JB owned to see if he was there, and he had been told he hadn't shown up for work yet. Which, again, super unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah. La, la, la. At 8:15, Mary finally got a hold of JB's brother Ross, who arrived and let himself in with a key. And at first, Ross saw nothing wrong with the house. He walked in, it seemed normal, just dark. Then he went to the first floor bedroom and saw a sheet pulled over the bed where the Stellinger girls lied.
Jeez, that has to be a horrific scene to walk into.
Yeah, well, at this point, they're covered. He's not seeing anything until he noticed a lifeless hand fallen below the bedsheet.
Oh.
So he said he could smell a dreadful blend of copper and blood. He immediately ran out and told Mary to call the town sheriff and to call everyone. One of Moore's workers at Sealy had turned up to take care of the livestock, and Russ had told him not to bother because something terrible had happened here.
Oh, no.
So you know how, like, now you can get text alerts from people to be like, hey, here's a national disaster coming, or like stuff like that?
Yeah.
So that's essentially what they did, but with 840 like citizen phones. They were all rung up and told about the murder.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and so people used to do this weird thing where they would just show up to crime scenes.
That is weird.
And take shit.
What?
Yeah. Like, take souvenirs from the house and, like, mess up the crime scenes. All kinds of weird shit.
I mean, I was going to say, I thought it was bad enough when we were growing up and people would show up at your house unexpectedly. And it was normal.
No, this was a whole other thing.
Yeah, but that's insane.
Yeah. So clearly, everybody started showing up to the house because they wanted to see. And the town marshal, Hank Horton, even let some of the locals handle the murder weapon.
No.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It gets worse because some of the townspeople took pieces of JB's skull as souvenirs before they could be ushered out.
Why would you take pieces of someone else's skull?
Because it's so cool. That's just a joke. I know it's not cool to take pieces of dead people.
Yeah, no.
So the county coroner showed up around 9 p.m. or at 9 a.m. the county coroner, Dr. Lindquist, showed up to the crime scene. After viewing it himself, he later met Horton, who had been the night's watchman for the town, and Sheriff Orion Jackson, and they had gone through all the information that had been collected. Lindquist was pissed that people had been through the house, and he urged the sheriff to get the National Guard to secure it because the armory was located in Villisca, and the National Guard ended up securing a perimeter around the house at 10:30. So, like, that has to tell you how bad it was.
Yeah. And
if he's like,
I mean, the fact that people were allowed in there in the first place, like, that's just wild.
And they saw them taking pieces of people's skull. Like, they just left it. It's like, okay, cool, love that.
That's horrible.
A local druggist whose hobby was photography showed up to take photos, but he was dismissed from taking the photos because they were too ghoulish. And apparently this was also a thing where people would take pictures of crime scenes to then sell them as postcards at drugstores.
What?
Yeah. It was really common for drugstores to have postcards with crime scenes on them.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, that kind of sounds pretty cool now to try to find some of those, and I'm sure they're expensive as hell, but that's horrifying.
Yeah. And somebody would just go in and take them, not say shit about it.
Wow, to profit off of crime scenes like that. That's insane.
Yeah, this whole thing was insane. So now it's at 10 p.m. and the Undertaker is finally getting permission to remove the bodies.
Just at 10 p.m.?
Yeah, the next day.
Jeez.
So they're discovered at like what, 8 a.m.?
Mm-hmm.
And the bodies are finally getting removed at 10 p.m.
Wow.
They ended up turning the fire station into a temporary morgue, and it was close to 2 a.m. before all the bodies had been transported to the makeshift morgue. So the other weird part is the estimated time of death would have been between midnight and 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is he able to get around the house? Because it was a clean toxicology report on all the victims. So it's not like they were drugged.
Yeah.
And then there's the fact that JB's wallet was left completely untouched. So it's not like they were robbing him.
It's just interesting that nobody heard anything. Nobody woke up after the first murders. Nobody woke up after the third murder, considering that they're all in that same room, those kids.
Just
Like,
right across the hall.
how do you not hear that? And then how do you not hear your own brothers or your sister being murdered and not wake up and like try to fight back or run or something? And then, yeah, just murder two more girls downstairs. How does that happen?
So how did you start upstairs? Like,
yeah, and why?
yeah. So another unsettling part of this is the Stillinger girls' bodies had been moved after they died. Ina was laid on her stomach with her like bum up in the air, and Lena's body had been moved and her undergarments were removed.
Oh, that's horrible.
And then her leg was positioned in a way to show off her nether region.
That's absolutely horrible.
But despite that, her body didn't seem to have been molested in any way, which is also a little odd.
Huh.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
So then in the barn, investigators found imprint on the hay next to a knot hole where they believe the killer observed the family for some time. There were also 2 spent cigarettes found in the attic, suggesting the murderer could have entered the house from a window or unlocked back door and hid until the family returned from church.
Jeez. Why that entire time?
But also, you clearly have a key to the house. Why are you hiding in the attic?
Yeah, that too. It all doesn't make sense.
There's so many things where you're like, why? But why? But why? And I think that's why it's still unsolved to this day.
I hate that.
It's kind of the worst, but it's one of those ones where I don't think we'll ever find out because it's so old and there's so little evidence.
Yeah, probably not.
So 2 other weird bits of evidence that were uncovered was a gas lamp with its chimney removed and its wick turned down. So it only gave off like the littlest amount of light in the attic. And then there was a fragment of a keychain that did not belong to the Moores that was found downstairs.
Oh, I wonder if that was part of the key that the killer had.
Yeah, and it just got caught on something in the moment or whatever, but it's a little weird. But it goes to show that A, someone had been in the barn for a while, B, somebody had been upstairs, and C, that they had a key in general.
That's so creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And unsettling.
Yeah, because it's like, why? Why do they have a key? Like, what is going on?
I don't like it.
So now it's Tuesday, June 11th. The coroner's jury The coroner's jury convened for the inquest, and 14 witnesses were called to testify. So we'll just go through them like real quick and kind of the quick rundown of them.
Okay.
So first we have the neighbor Mary Peckham, heard nothing but was the one to notify people. Ed Sully, who is Moore's employee, when he was questioned at the inquest about possible enemies of Joe, he admitted that he had mentioned his brother-in-law could have been a threat. Quote, Joe, says, I got a brother-in-law that don't like me. Said he would even get me with some time. And the brother-in-law that Moore was referring to was Sam Ware. They also interviewed Dr. J. Clark Cooper, who was the physician on the scene, Jesse Moore, who is Josiah's brother, Dr. F.S. Williams, and then we get to Edward Launders. So Launders was staying with his mother at a home near the Moore home. Mm-hmm. He was just there for the summer, a couple houses down. He said he went to bed shortly after 9 p.m. on Sunday, and then shortly before he had fell asleep, he heard a sound that, quote-unquote, impressed him. It sounded like one boy hooting for another outside somewhere. According to Landers, the sound occurred in regular intervals but didn't connect it with anything and fell asleep shortly after. So, like, just sounded like some boys playing outside. And he was like, whatever, boys will be boys. I'm going to go to sleep.
Okay.
So then when he was pressed for a time, Landers settled on approximately 11 p.m. when the noise stopped. He further testified that he didn't think anything of it at the time, and the next morning when he heard about the murders, it occurred to him that the sounds may have been a woman moaning.
How does it change to that?
I mean, like, you just hear a loud noise in the middle of the night, and you assume it's one thing because you know the boys are down the street, and then you hear it was a murder down the street, and you go, oh, well, maybe it did sound a little bit more like this than that, you know?
I mean, I guess.
The only strangers Landers had admitted to seeing around the Moore home that weekend were a wallpaper cleaner that had stopped by his mother's house around 10:30 on Saturday night.
Huh.
A couple other people interviewed were Fenwick Moore, Villisca Marshall Hank Horton, John Lee Van Glider, who was Josiah's nephew, Blanche's sister, and their father, which, poor girl, she had to feel horrible about allowing her sisters to stay the night.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even on her parents. Like, she said, no, it's fine. Like, they can stay.
Yeah, that's gotta be hard for her.
I'm sure the weird level of survivor's guilt that you must have for that, too.
Oh, yeah.
The final person who spoke was Charles Moore, who was another one of Josiah's brothers. He couldn't identify the axe, which was supposed to be the murder weapon, as Joe's, but he did say that Joe kept one in the coal shed.
Mm-hmm.
Charles also testified that it was habit for Joe to lock up the house from the inside when they went to sleep.
So, yeah, they had to have had a key or were already inside the house.
Yeah. So, my thing is, I think they were already inside the house if he's locking the house up from inside.
Yeah, that's true.
Because for me, what I assume is there's like an additional lock, like how we have the baby locks inside the house that you couldn't just use by getting in with a key.
Yeah, that's true.
So now let's get into a couple of suspects.
Okay.
Okay. First, we'll start with F. Frank Jones, who was a prominent Villisca resident and the Iowa State Senator who... Okay. So first, let's start with F. Frank Jones. Frank was a prominent Villisca member and an Iowa State Senator And Moore had actually worked for him for 9 years before opening his John Deere store in 1908. This was a big deal because the company that Frank was running was also like a tractor store. So now Moore has the franchise for John Deere, is opening up a John Deere store, which is like the big name brand that people are going to want. They're not going to go to Frank's store anymore.
Yeah.
So not only did he lose an employee of 9 years, he now has competition.
Yeah, I could see him as why they would suspect him, yeah.
There was also rumor that Moore had an affair with Jones's daughter-in-law, Donna, which further fanned the flames that Jones and Moore would not get along. So Detective Wilkerson of the Burns Detective Agency actually openly accused Frank and his son Albert of hiring a hitman named William Blackie Mansfeld. So this potential hitman had happened to be arrested in 1916, and Detective Wilkerson believed he was also responsible in the axe murders of his wife, infant child, father-in-law, and mother-in-law in Blue Island, Illinois on July 5th, 1914, which was a full 2 years after the Villisca murder.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but kind of consistent if you think he could murder one whole family with an axe. Like, what's to say he didn't do it again?
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
There's also 2 other cases that he could have possibly done as well. The weird one, though, was in Aurora, Colorado, because he had used the blunt end of the axe, covered the mirrors, and used a flipped lamp in the attic. The same thing as what happened in Villisca, he did at this killing in Aurora.
That's interesting. So that definitely, yeah, makes me think he could. One, and then, but like, what would his motive be?
I don't know. Well, so for him, he was hired by the family. Like, if you're assuming that it's Blackie, you're assuming that Moore's ex-employer took out a hit on him and hired this guy.
Yeah.
So that would be the motive, is he got paid to do it.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah. It's a little weird that those big 3 things that are a little weird are consistent in those 2 murders.
Yeah.
He had a rock-solid alibi proving through payroll records that he was in Illinois at the time of the murders, and so he had to be released for lack of evidence.
That's still suspicious.
Yeah, so Detective Wilkerson told the papers at the time he believed that Jones, who was arguably the most wealthy and most influential resident in Villisca at the time, pressured for Mansfield to be released and pushed for our next suspect to be arrested and tried.
Okay.
Which, before I started learning about this case, I thought it was this next guy, but I'm kind of thinking it was the hitman for hire.
Okay.
So our next subject is Reverend George Kelly, who was born in England. Kelly and his wife settled in Macedonia, Iowa in 1912 after several years of preaching throughout the Midwest. In 1917, Kelly was arrested and charged for the murder of one of the victims for the Villisca murder. Kelly was about to enter a Presbyterian seminary and was doing some work for the Presbyterian church in Villisca, which would put him there at the time of the murders, would put him at the church, so he would have seen everyone there. Because the other thing is, with the girls being there, he had to have known the girls were downstairs to begin with. Why would you just assume that you broke into this family home and there were people downstairs?
Unless he just decided to look through all the rooms. after he had murdered them upstairs. And that's why he started upstairs, went downstairs, realized that there were two more.
But even then, it's a 600 square foot home. Like, you don't think the girls would hear?
I mean, that's fair. I don't know. This
it's just weird.
Yeah, this entire case is just odd.
Kelly had attended the children's program that day on June 9th of 1912. So the fact that he was there that night and then the next morning in the early hours of the morning, he just left town suddenly. So people were like, that's kind of weird. That's suspicious. That's weird.
Yeah. But, okay, here's my thing, is that we've kind of already established that the killer had to have been inside the house already, probably already there while they were at church, because they could open the door, because it's not locked from the inside while they're gone. So,
I mean, he was seen at the children's program, but who's to say he didn't leave early and just no one
that's fair.
Realized, you know?
That's fair. I'm just trying to think, because I'm like, they would already have to be like in the house waiting and hiding because the house is locked from the inside and they hadn't left the rest of the day.
Yeah, I don't know. So maybe he just left early, but this is like one that people really, really believe.
Okay.
But it also didn't help that Kelly wrote lengthy letters to investigators and posed as an investigator for Scotland Yard to get inside the house shortly after the murders.
What?
He also sent a bloody shirt to the drugstore to be cleaned the following week.
Okay, that's really suspicious.
Yeah, like Kelly had a lot going on. He had many mental issues and was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And he had a penchant for peeping in windows and was known to be a firebug who confessed to a series of arson crimes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but was also a reverend. So that's fun.
Okay, so thought.
Yeah.
What if it was a hitman and this dude? What if it was
I don't think
people?
they would be working together. No, it doesn't feel like multiple people. That's always been my thing. It's just never felt like multiple people because, I don't know, it just doesn't. I think if for multiple people, there would have been too much margin of error and they would have gotten caught already.
I don't know. It's odd that nobody woke up, nobody heard anything, nobody,
Yeah, it's a little odd, but who knows? Investigators failed to arrest Kelly initially for one simple reason, is that he was slight of build. So at only 5'2" and 119 pounds, the coroner and detective thought he would be physically incapable of doing the crimes because of how much force would have had to go into the backswing, and you would have had to be a certain height to get a backswing to hit like that, unless you're like going like way over your head. But even Kelly at 5'2" wouldn't have been tall enough to make that and bring it down every time.
It's all just very weird and very suspicious.
Yeah, so I mean, my biggest one's still the hitman, but we have two more like just out there things that I heard. So the first one was that it was like maybe a traveling hobo in the area. And they ruled out the people who happened to be in the area that were traveling through town. That was Henry Lee Moore, S.A. Andy Sawyer, and Joe Ricks. And they were all ruled out as suspects.
Okay.
So another possible theory that researchers today believe happened is that it was a serial killer who was traveling by train.
That could be a little more possible.
So apparently there was a series of random axe murders that ranged from 1910 to 1919 that all happened around train track towns.
Interesting.
So it could be that. It could just be like a random serial killer who never got caught and they just happen to be in there, or it could just be a standalone, or it could be a hit.
Or a copycat.
It's so weird. It feels so personal to continue to beat them in like that.
Yeah.
Or sending a message, but then also having the key. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a little hard on that one for sure.
So to this day, there are tales that the home is haunted and seasoned investigators refuse to enter. It is now a museum that offers daytime tours, overnight stays, and a cemetery tour, and you can still see the notches in the wood from the axe.
I kind of want to go.
It sounds terrifying. Like,
I kind of just want to see what I would feel or what I would see.
Yeah, it feels like there'd be a lot of rage because no one else really knew what was going on. I guess they can hear like the kids playing and like sometimes a woman screaming.
I don't know. I want to see what I would feel or what I would hear.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a whole thing. Ugh. But yeah, that is the Villisca Axe Murders.
Well, thanks. That was absolutely horrifying.
You're welcome. You know, I always like to bring you the most horrifying cases.
I know you do. It's a problem. Are we ready for a disturbing fact?
You mean am I ready for you to horrify me now?
Yeah.
No.
It's exactly what I mean.
Mm-hmm. How about no? How about we just finish the episode? So if you like whatever the fuck this is.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. All right, let's do this one. The lining of your cheek, so like the inside of your mouth.
Okay.
Is the same kind of tissue that is found in your rectum. So your asshole.
Huh. That makes sense why people like to do things in that then. Because I'm just like feeling it with my tongue. I'm like, yeah, that is pretty fucking soft.
Of course you would think. That's the first thing that you do. The very first thing.
Why would you not? It's just like, oh,
I mean,
right.
you're not wrong. I did the same thing.
It's less
you
horrifying.
You externalize your thoughts.
It's less horrifying and more of just like a thinker. Like,
darn it, I gotta try harder next time then. I got some good ones for you.
Okay, good. That one was just a little fun. And now I just keep licking the inside of my cheek being like, yeah, that makes sense.
Stop doing that. That's a horrifying way to describe it. You're licking the inside of your cheek.
That's what I'm doing. All right. Well, if you like whatever the fuck this is, be sure to head over to our Instagram. Our Instagram is WTF is that pod. Over there, you'll find the link to our link tree along with all the places to listen to us. And with that, do not get an ulcer on the side of your mouth from licking it too hard because that's not what buttholes feel like. Bye.
Bye. You are ridiculous.
Oh, I'm well fucking aware.